Hey everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of LightHearted. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Britton, and we are so excited to be here with you today.
Before we get into this episode, we wanted to introduce a few questions that we plan on asking every guest that comes onto our podcast.
We figured we better be the first ones to answer these questions since we're going to ask them of everybody else. Question 1 is, if you could go back in time and change anything in your life, something that you had control over, though it has to be something you actually could have changed.
Right, that makes sense.
Would you change anything? And if so, what would you change?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm like so cliche, and I'm like, I would never change anything about my life because it makes me who I am today, which is so true, guys. Like,
it is true.
Even like the hard things, it's like, it changes who you are. So I don't think I would change anything. And if I were to change something, it would probably just be like to have more fun.
Yeah.
So something that wouldn't impact me today, but maybe just a little bit more fun. There was a few trips that I skipped going out on when I was in high school, and I kind of wish I went on those. So I probably would just go on those.
Yeah.
What about you?
I love that. I agree that it does make us who we are, but there is something I would change. I think that in high school, I really liked having a boyfriend. And so I just kind of always had a boyfriend, and it definitely took away from my need and ability to just be a really good friend. I feel like that's a skill that I kind of missed because I was so focused on something else. And so now as a grown-up, I've had to kind of backtrack and figure out how to be a good friend and like how to be there for people that I care about, because I really wasn't focused on that. So
wow.
I think that's something I would change.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's hard to learn life skills as a grown-up, though.
Very true.
It's so
very,
hard.
very true. Question number 2. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Man, that's a really hard one. Mm-hmm. I think, and I know it's so much easier said than done, but probably just to like be secure in who I was. I felt like so much of me, I just had to like quiet down and like not show anybody because it was just too crazy. And I kind of wish that I wouldn't have lost like the wild side. And yeah, like I think just like be secure in who you are, and you're going to find the people who love you.
I love that.
Yeah. What would you say?
Kind of to go hand in hand with that, I feel like growing up, I tried to like mimic off of my friends. So like I acted like them. I wanted to do the thing. I liked the things that they liked because they liked them, and I wanted them to like me. So I would act like them. And I just wish I would have been myself. So I would tell her to just be yourself, because your true friends will love you for who you are, and not because you like all the same things that they do.
I love that. I think like since our answers were so similar, I wonder if that's just such a universal feeling. It's like we just want to be loved and we just want to be accepted. Yeah. And so we kind of fit whatever mold we need to so that we can feel like that.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Aww. Final question that we'll be asking all of our guests when they come on is, if they could go to the future and speak to future them, is there a question that you would ask future you? What would you want to know?
You got to be careful asking your future self questions, because you could totally like mess up your life. Totally mess up your life. So I feel like I would ask a broad question that wouldn't like impact how I go moving forward. Mm-hmm. I would ask her if she was happy in what she was doing and who she was with and all of that, because I feel like if you ask like, do you have your dream job? Like, are you working at this specific job, or are you with this specific person?
Yeah. And then you're not,
you're going to be so disappointed.
Yeah.
But like just the broad question of like, are you happy?
Yeah.
That's what I would ask.
I love that. What if she said no?
That would suck.
What would you do?
I would cry. No, actually, I think I would use it as motivation to like be better and be happy the way I am. And then
like fix it for future you.
Fix it.
I love that.
Okay. What about you?
That's so good. That's so heartwarming. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I would want to ask anything too pointed because I would get my hopes up and I probably would get disappointed. And so I think I would just ask something along the lines of like, are you happy? Are you at peace with your decisions? Are you, feeling like you are where you need to be? Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing those questions with us. If you have your answers to those questions all ready to go ahead and send those to us if you want to. You can send them to us on Instagram via a DM, and maybe we'll share them on the podcast. And you can let us know if you want that to be anonymous or if you are okay with us saying your name. Totally up to you. Just let us know. Today we're going to dive into something that is very close to our hearts. These are our own personal journeys of how we got here. We'll be talking about how we've found light in some of our darkest times and how we've held on to that light moving forward, because that seems to be the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very personal episode, but we think that's the perfect way to start. We want you, our listeners, to know that no matter what you're going through, there's always hope. There's always light, even if it's hard to see sometimes.
I think a good place to just start to share is our stories.
Yeah.
These are moments in our lives where it just felt like everything was really dark, but somehow we found that little glimmer of light to keep going. So I can start while you think about it. So I remember a time when I just felt completely lost. I was immediately postpartum and I was struggling really hard with just depression, super postpartum anxiety. I started having like suicidal thoughts and just, it was not a good place to be. It was really difficult. I didn't know how I was going to keep going. I didn't want to keep going. But something really shifted in me when I realized that I didn't have to have it all figured out. So for me, the light came in the form of, and bear with me here because it's crazy. So I am religious. And so I was just praying about it. And I was like, I need help. I can't do this anymore. Like I can't function like this. I can't live like this. I don't want to live like this. And it popped into my head, and I have never done this before. It popped into my head that I needed to join a pageant.
A pageant?
And I was like, no. And then I was like, hello, I need help. And it was like, no, you need to join a pageant. You have to do this.
That's crazy.
Isn't that such a weird answer?
That's like such a wild, like out there thing.
It was so weird. And like I never did cheerleading. I never did gymnastics. Like I never did any of like the prettier sports.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was just such an oddball answer, but I did it. I signed up for the first pageant that I found. I lost, but in that time that I spent preparing for this pageant, like I focused on my mental health. I focused on my physical health. I became a much happier mom, and I was able to function as a human being and as a mom and as a wife because I got help in such a dark moment. So that small shift, we're going to call it a small shift, just really helped me to climb out of a really dark place that I was in.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
It's amazing. I feel like to start off, to get to know me just a little bit more, is that I am a Christian. So, I find my joy and my hope in Jesus.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was really, really struggling. 2020, I feel like hit everyone like a ton of bricks, as it did.
Yeah.
For me, oddly, it wasn't even pandemic related. It just kind of happened all at once. The anxiety got to a place where I would wake up and I didn't want to be awake. And when I was scared to go to sleep, I had nightmares. It was really, really, really hard. And I was having panic attacks all the time. And it was just like, how do you keep going? Like, how do you wake up and eat and get ready and do all of these things that we're supposed to do? And it's like, I don't even want to be alive. Like, how do you keep going?
Yeah.
And
that's so hard.
It is. It's so, so difficult. So for me, like my parents met in church. So I grew up in the same church my whole life. And through those anxiety years, I was just so struggling. And I just felt like something needed to change. And it was scary. Like I didn't want to make a big change. That's really scary. But I ended up switching churches in 2023.
Wow.
Away from my family. I did have family at this other church, but it was like, this is big, and it has nothing to do, like nothing against the other church. It was like God was moving me somewhere, and it was like, this is really terrifying. but I'm going to do it. And it has been the best decision. And I'm just so grateful that like I stepped out in faith and did what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And it was hard. And there's still days where I'm like, this is kind of sad. Like I'm not with my parents or my siblings, but it's like I am where I'm supposed to be. And I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing. That's so hard too when like you've been raised a certain way and then it's like.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure like, I don't know if betrayal's the right word because I don't think it is, but like I'm sure there was like a sense of like, man, I am just like.
Absolutely.
Like I'm just betraying my family
right.
because like I feel called to do
or my
this.
church family, like regardless, like I grew up with these people and there's still moments like I was thinking about it the other day. It was like they're having a event coming up and I was like, I miss those people. Yeah. Like regardless of where I go to church, like that was my family.
Yeah.
So it's hard. But
yeah. I think that speaks so much about who you are as a person is like if you feel called to do something and it's important to you, you're going to do it. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really admirable.
Thank you. Really quick, before we move any further, I wanted to kind of give you guys a little look into like why we wanted to start this podcast or my personal view of like why we wanted to do this. I did write it down, so I am going to read a little bit just because I want to get all the points that I wrote down. For me, my heart behind this podcast is life is like a roller coaster. It's insane. So many ups and downs, so much good, so much bad. I feel like everyone, including myself, we can tend to focus on all the negative things, all the toxic things. It just like draws us in. I also feel like media can tend to focus on the negative.
So much.
It focuses on the negative things and it just, honestly, it straight up scares people. It causes anxiety in a world full of anxiety.
Yes.
Like we don't need more anxiety, guys.
So much anxiety and so much pressure that we don't need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I feel like for us, we wanted to create a place where we can just share our hearts with you guys. We can talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but show that there is always light and that we will get through these things. And we know you guys can too. Yeah.
I ditto all of that. I think one thing that kept coming up for me when you were saying that was like I'm done being a victim to hard days. Because I think it can be so hard to like get wrapped up in so easy to get wrapped up in the negativity.
Absolutely.
Right. It's like this horrible thing happened and then this thing happened. And of course this thing happened after that. Like it's so easy to start falling into that thought pattern, I guess. And so like, I'm just done with it. I want to focus on the light. I want to share the light with other people. And we're just really excited to be able to share that part of us.
Yes.
We're so excited to be here. I think it's important too to remind ourselves that finding light doesn't mean that everything is just magically okay and magically fixed.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So I think for us, it's just more about having something to hold on to. It's a source of strength or of hope so that we can keep moving forward and looking up even when our days are really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of, have you heard of Viktor Frankl?
No.
Okay. So he was like in a concentration camp and he shares his story. And he's basically just talking about the people in the camps, the ones that had hope were the ones that made it out alive. Yeah. Like the ones that felt like they had something to live for outside of it.
Makes sense.
They made it.
For sure.
And I just like, not to say that we are like Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp, because we're not. It's not that deep.
No.
But like life is going to be hard. And if we can have hope, then like we can have that light at the end of the tunnel knowing that we're going to make it out of it and it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that like the things we speak over our lives, if we are speaking negatively constantly, that's what we're going to reap. Like you can't talk bad about everything going on and everything you're doing and how life's going and expect to be happy. Yeah. Like you're going to be miserable. So if we can just hold on to, even if it's the tiniest bit of light, we're going to get through it. If you can focus on the good things. And I know some days it feels like there are none. Yes. I understand. Like I get it. And that's the days where you call up a friend and you get help because it's hard. Yeah. It's so hard.
It is hard. There's a quote that I heard that they just say like, you attract what you are. Yeah. Right. And so if you're going to be super negative all the time, like I'm sure we've all met people where like their life just seems really negative and really hard and really awful all the time. Yeah. And I definitely think that plays into it. And I like bad things just happen.
Yeah.
Bad things happen. And that's just how it's going to be. But like, I think if we can speak some positivity into existence, it definitely exists around us a lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you heard the oil lamp story?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you should share that.
So I heard this from someone else. I'm not taking credit for this, but the oil lamps that they used to use to like walk, like when they obviously didn't have flashlights, they didn't like, I guess for us, like we don't use those. I kind of thought that they were like, they illuminate all this stuff, like everything, you can see everything. That is not what they do, you guys. It literally just lights your next step. So it's okay if you cannot see way off in front of you. Like that is okay. Sometimes you only have enough light to light up the next step, and sometimes you don't have a light at all. And that's where we like call upon like friends, or like for me it's God. Like sometimes he only gives us a little piece.
Yeah.
Like he's just lighting the next step, and we have to step out into the next thing, and it is so scary.
Yeah.
But
it is scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just feel like that's a good way to look at it. Is like you don't have to light up everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not going to see, even 5 steps in front of you, but if you can see that next step, keep going.
It reminds me of Frozen 2.
Frozen 2.
Yeah, where she's like, just do the next right thing. Like that's like, as soon as that song came out, I was like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, is like you just look for the next right thing that you can do. Yeah. And like move forward in the best way that you can.
I love that.
I love it. So good. Movies for the win.
It's a good coping mechanism, by the way. Let's talk about holding on to the light. I feel like it's one thing to find the light, but then to reach for it, so hard.
So hard.
Especially when life just keeps on throwing curveballs at us.
And it does.
It all
the time.
What are some daily things that you do to hold on to the light and to keep going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, holding on to the light just means constantly reminding myself that it's okay that I don't have every single answer that I need right now immediately, because true. I think that's my toughest thing. So when things get tough, I definitely have to take a minute to remind myself to like step back. And I think of all of the times that I've been in a pretty dark place and I have made it through every single time, like based on the knowledge that I had at the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've always made it through. So I think it's that perspective, and then paired with, I call them my like trusted advisors, like my close inner circle of like people that I call when I'm having a really tough time. So yeah, just like focusing on not needing all the answers and then having the right people around me.
Absolutely.
It keeps me together.
Yes, for sure. Community is everything.
Community is everything.
People need people.
I love that.
People need people. It's a Kane song.
Kane.
Of course they were going to pop into
people
the episode.
Need people.
It's a good song.
I love that. So what do you do in your life then, just to keep you focused on the light? What are some daily practices that you have?
I feel like most important for me is like, I tend to stress and worry about things that I have no control over. Like absolutely none. And so I have to like remind myself like, hey, you can't do anything about this. So whether this is someone else's job, someone else has to fix this or do this, I have to trust that they can do that. And if they can't, I can't fix it. It's not my job to fix it.
Yeah.
And you just have to like, I have to constantly remind myself of that.
And that's hard when like you're in charge of a lot of things.
Right.
And you take care of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so then having to be like, you have control over this thing and I don't.
I'm a controlling person, like just to be completely honest. Like I like, and maybe not in a mean way, like my family can let me know, but I feel like that is just who I am. Like I am like, okay, I will take control. If no one else is doing it, I'm going to do it. But sometimes it's like, no, you cannot do that. Like you cannot take control of this. So whether that's someone else's relationship or someone else's thing that they need to get done, like I can't do it. Yeah. And that's okay. It's okay. We can't do everything.
That's such a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you cannot do everything, and that is totally okay. And no one expects you to. And if they do,
they're being unreasonable.
They're being completely unreasonable, and they should not expect you to do everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I I don't want to say like I feel called out right now, but I'm like, I definitely feel like that, where it's like I like to be in control too. I like to know what's going on. And then like when I have something I don't have control over, I feel so helpless. And so I really like that reminder of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fine.
So important.
So before we wrap up all of this goodness, I just wanted to come up with maybe a few just really practical tips that people could put into place pretty quickly, just to kind of start focusing on the light. If you are struggling with like feelings of negativity or feeling alone or whatever it is that you're feeling, I just want to have a couple of really quick tools just ready for you. So while you're thinking on that, one thing that I do is I almost focus on like the feeling that I want to have. Okay. So I like try to create a practice around that. So if I'm craving peace, if I feel like my life is just really chaotic, I try to create more peace. So I'll like focus on having like a really quiet or thoughtful moment every single day. Or if I need happiness, then I focus on like practicing more gratitude. So I think instead of being like, I'm going to meditate every day or I'm going to pray every day, like I say, okay, I'm lacking this thing. I need more of this thing. So how can I get this feeling? So that's what works for me. What works for you? What do you do?
Really good.
Thank you.
I feel like it changes constantly. Like we have to be like adapt to like our lives and how things go. But I feel like the most important thing I can tell you is to practice gratitude. Like it sounds like, I don't want to be thankful for everything all the time because life sucks sometimes.
Yes.
But if we can wake up like the second we open our eyes and just be grateful that we're alive, sometimes that's hard.
Yeah.
But to just practice gratitude, it will take you a long way. And then for me, like practicing routine is super important. So no matter what is going on around me, what I'm doing that day, to have steady things in my life. So like, simple things like I do my skincare every morning and every night.
Yeah.
No matter where I am or what I'm doing or how bad or good my day was, like I start and finish with skincare. And it's something to keep my life the same. Like, I need routine. Or like watching TV every evening with my mom has like been super special to me because no matter like what I was doing that day, I know that I get to do that. And so I feel like if you can add, even if it's the smallest element of routine, it will really help. At least it helps me.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it probably just like signals to your brain to like it's okay. We're just doing our skincare routine. Everything's fine.
Right. And it's like, even if you're traveling and you're struggling with that, like, okay, I'm out of town and it's not my bed and I'm not with this person. And it's like, okay, I have my, I'm still doing my skincare to get ready for bed and I have this specific routine.
Yeah.
It helps me a lot.
I love that. I think like gratitude definitely solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to somebody years and years ago and they were just like, having a tough time, and they said that they were focusing on gratitude and that some days literally the only thing they would be thankful for was that they were breathing, but they were focusing on the fact that they were breathing. And like
sometimes that's all you got.
Sometimes that's all you've got, and that's okay. Like if that is all that you have to focus on, like focus on the fact that you are happy to be here. You're thankful that you're here.
We hope today's episode helped you reflect on your own journey and maybe even gave you a little bit of hope if you're going through something tough right now.
Just remember that finding light isn't about everything being perfect. It's about finding something, no matter how small, that can guide you back through the darkness. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first actual episode of LightHearted. We're so thankful and we're so excited to have you here. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. If you'd like to share your own story with us, please send us a DM on Instagram at LightHeartedPod.
Always remember, no matter how tough life gets, there is always light. This episode was recorded on Buzzsprout in West Virginia.